Welcome to State of Mind.
A state is ephemeral. It's where you are right now, not where you'll always be.
This podcast is for the people who followed the rules of the game and found themselves asking, now what? Here we talk about recalibration, alignment, and what it means to write your own rules. We're your co-hosts, Kenwolia Guam.
And I'm Leah Neal.
And this is State of Mind. Okay.
Yeah, for context, the sigh is because it took us 30 minutes, right? Even more.
It might have been even more than 30
yeah,
minutes.
just trying to position our camera. And I know you guys have been, the ones who've been following from the beginning, have already been seeing our camera difficulties, our technical difficulties with the blackout screens.
It's no joke.
This time it was a different kind of technical difficulty, but we're here.
We're here. We're doing it.
Yeah.
Building in public. Figuring it out as we go.
Yeah, this is the part no one tells you about podcasting, that it'll take 30 minutes to figure out how to connect your phone to your laptop and whatnot. The
learning curve is steeper than we realize, but we're learning. Yes. So that's nice.
Yes, learning and growing.
Yeah. Well, how's your week been, Leah / weekend?
It's good. Yeah, it's freaking freezing.
We're in a tundra here in New York.
I've never seen the weather like this before. Usually ice will melt after 2 days in New York. And this has been just withstanding for weeks now.
Actually, yesterday I accidentally hit a dog in the face.
Right, it's the weather. It's the weather.
I promise it's related. So not only is it cold here, it's really windy, and I had my shopping bags, and the wind was
in
fierce.
Your way. You're like
no, and then the wind starts blowing the shopping bags as I'm passing this owner and their dog. And my bags hit the dog, and I felt so bad.
What'd the dog do?
Nothing. The dog was just on its leisurely walk, and I came in interrupting it. Yeah, the weather is causing me to hurt dogs. Not intentionally. I'm a massive dog lover. Anyway, very much besides the point.
Yeah. Okay, but the good thing, there is a silver lining to this, I think. So I recently went to a 2026 year forecast astrology event.
Ooh, okay.
Like a month ago or so. Mm-hmm. And the astrologer was talking about how she's like, it's just down to a math basically, and everything is just patterns, and that's how you can tell what's going to come up in the future just based on like how things have aligned in the past and like what has been recurring when the planets have aligned the way that they have aligned. So she was saying, based on that, this summer is going to be super juicy. It's going to be frolicking vibes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we're also in 2026. So I'm like, remember like 2016 summer, everyone like talks about that. Vibes were high for most people. So I think how this relates to a frolicking summer is maybe sometimes we need to experience the worst parts of, seasons in order to appreciate when things do get better.
Yes.
So I think when things start to thaw and warm up, we're all going to be outside.
We're going to be frolicking outside. Because we recall when we were bundled in our houses.
Yeah. Sometimes you need the bad to appreciate the good, or maybe most of the time. Yeah.
Okay, you talking about maths reminds me of geometry, and I think this gets into the topic of what we want to talk about today. But
I love how our minds work.
But okay, follow me here. So I love math. Growing up, math was always my stronger suit. I also loved like my English and language arts classes, but I had to put in more effort in those classes. But math, I was interested in it, and it came to me a bit more naturally. That's with the exception of geometry or like spatial maths, like calculus 3. And I also went to a magnet school growing up, which just means that like these are schools you test into. And they're for students who, get good grades and care about school. And so I was taking more advanced math classes for my grade. But in geometry, I remember my geometry teacher, when she was passing back exams, she would always hand it out in order of the person that got the highest score to the person that got to the person that got the worst score. In the moment, I was like, okay, this is just how it's done. But as I reflect on it, I was like, oh, that's terrible. Like, why would she do that? And like I mentioned earlier, geometry was not my strong suit. So I was never one of the first people to get my exams back. And every time it would crush me. But one of the things we want to talk about today was comparison. And I thought about that as I was reflecting on the idea of comparison, because I was trying to think back to when comparison started for me. And I couldn't remember the starting point. All I remember is that it's been with me for my entire life.
I had a question. That was one of my questions too.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I also asked myself, like it had me reflecting on when did it first start with me? Like when did I first become aware of being compared or comparing myself? And I was like, oh, this is going to be a little difficult to like try to remember the first time. But I think it definitely has to do with like my mom. It is just such...
We love our moms.
Yes, we do love them. But it is such a just a Chinese thing, such an Asian thing to compare kids. Like you
Very
compare
much
your
a Nigerian
children.
thing too.
Yeah, maybe it's just an immigrant thing.
Yeah, maybe.
Like it all because it comes from a place of like humility as well. But yeah, like when the moms are chatting, everyone's talking about, there's like, it's striking a fine balance. It's like a dance between I'm being humble, I'm like not talking up my kid, but also I'm want to let you know that they have things going on as well. But like kind of like speaking around it. But when the parent is talking to you, you're kind of only hearing like how other people are doing, like how other people are like, oh, you should strive for this.
Yes.
It doesn't come from a malicious place. It's just like always, I mean, this kind of goes back to one of our previous episodes of like always strive for more. Like you want to compare yourself to people who are where you want to be. So yeah, I think it started from a young age for me.
Yeah, so what got us down this line of thinking is a listener.
Yes, thank you, Casey.
Yeah.
Casey's my good friend. Yeah, we've talked about comparison before. So it gives us a lot to just reflect on, especially we met in swimming, so hyper competitive sport, very individual sport. The only time it becomes a team sport is when maybe you're on a high school team or your college team, but you're still competing with each other, or like you're on a relay, but sometimes you're still competing with each other there. So yeah, like just seeing how being competitive in swimming laid the groundwork for how we approach life moving forward, whether we like it or don't. I think there's a lot of, again, unlearning from that and separating like what is beneficial in moving you in the right direction versus what is actively hindering you by keeping that mentality.
Yeah.
So thank you, Casey.
Thank you, Casey. So in both of our responses to thinking about when we first started comparing, the common thread is that comparison was conditioned. It was an outside influence for me. The first example that comes to mind as a teacher, for you, it's your mom. But in both instances, an external force was leading to this internal comparison pressure. And I think that is something I realized, is that comparison being conditioned wasn't a malicious intent. Oftentimes the intention came from a great place. I think for my teacher, it might have been to recognize the students that were at the top of the class. But the downside was then you're inadvertently shaming the students that were at the bottom of the class. But there's a point where it transitions from being externally influenced to becoming internal. And that's when it becomes a bit more of a habit. And so thinking back like to the first time I started comparing myself, it's hard for me to do that because I feel like comparison has been a part of me for such a long time. And the only reason is because it's like the thought pattern I've been conditioned to think in, and it's become so innate for me.
Okay, so that's great to see where it's rooted in and where it first started showing its face. Where now do you see it come up a lot? Like, when do you notice comparison come up in your day-to-day as an adult?
Yeah, I see it come up in two places. One is in the workplace, and then the other is in my personal downtime. Starting with in the work.
You're like, so every waking moment?
All the time. When I'm working and when I'm not. Yeah, but when I'm working, my work environment is heavy on the feedback culture, which I like. I mean, I think that for self-development reasons, knowing how you're performing in real time is helpful. But because of that, it's like, all right, when I know that there is something that I need to work on, I'm looking for outside inspiration to see what I can imitate maybe to improve in that area. And oftentimes, I mean, the result of that is comparison, right? I'm pegging where I am currently against where someone who I think is more advanced in that area is, and I'm comparing myself to them. And then in downtime, I see comparison creeping up when I'm scrolling, honestly. That's a large part of the reason I've since changed my relationship with social media. And I'm not comparing myself to people who I don't know. Like, I'm not comparing myself to influencers, for example. I'm comparing myself to acquaintances. I'm looking at their highlight reels and, yeah, just comparing their lives to mine. They're going on all these great trips. Their outfits are so nice, like that train of thought. And I've since changed the way I engage in social media to sort of circumvent that, but those are the ways that I see it coming up in my life today. What about you? What would you say?
Yeah, I just want to go off of the last thing that you said there, of like, you just change your social media habits or like your relationship with it. I think it's good to and this harkens back to like one of our first episodes as well. You talking about like just building the infrastructure, the guardrails to make what you want to do as easy as possible. So for you back then was about like working out, like holding yourself accountable by hiring someone to hold yourself accountable as well. Here you're not, it's so much more difficult to just be like, I'm going to stop comparing myself.
Yeah.
Because that's so difficult, it's just easier to be like, well, let me just stop. Let me remove the variable that makes comparison so strong. So let me just like stop being on social media so much.
Yeah, I think the reason why it's so difficult is because it's habitual. When it's so innate, you almost lack awareness of when it's happening. In
your answer, maybe to the first question, I was also thinking about, it's funny how there was the clear comparison in grading and like making that very obvious in your, what grade was that again?
That was
like middle school.
Yeah.
But how that's still prevalent in business school, like being at HBS, being graded on the curve. I was like, that was like one of the things that turned me off from it, because I'm so exhausted competing and comparing all the time. Like I did that for 20 years starting age 6. Like so it's just it was just like, oh gosh, so just exhausted from doing this and needing to do it again at age like 26 or 27, however old I was when I started. And I get it that like it forces people to be on top of their stuff and do their best work, but I hate that it leans more towards extrinsic comparison, competitiveness, as opposed to being more intrinsic. And that was what I didn't appreciate about it. But on the flip side of that, what I did appreciate was that everyone, like, yes, there are the very typical career paths that people get into in business school, but relative to swimming, like, to me, everyone was doing their own thing. So there was less like direct apples to apples comparison. So that was a nice change of pace for me. And I totally felt, I was like, oh, this is great. Like everyone's rooting for each other. It like no one's success is taking away from someone else's success. Unless you like really drill down into it, and it's like the return offers at like a consulting firm. Fun things like that. But yeah, just coming from swimming, it was, I think, unfortunately, swimming being so individual and being so competitive, like you have to be competitive, right, in order to make it, low key brought out the worst in people. And now that people are like retired and out of it, like people are so much more mellowed out. Like it's so cool to see the switch between like how they were in the thick of it and how they are after the fact. And where else comparison shows up?
What about like today?
Yeah. LinkedIn.
Facts. Yes.
Yeah, because everyone's always achieving and like having the best time of their lives and really excelling in their careers on LinkedIn, right? Yeah. And everyone, that's the new highlight reel for our generation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see that more. And yeah, it's so easy to just like keep scrolling, right? It's an endless scroll.
Yeah.
Mirroring social media just in general. When I find myself just like randomly, mindlessly scrolling, I'm just like, whoa, like, why am I even on this right now? So yeah, I think that's a huge one, just like career, thus LinkedIn.
Yeah. Social media in its many forms are what bring us back to that comparison habit. Yeah.
We're not meant to be so keenly aware of what everyone is up to all the time. And yeah, it's just not normal.
This brings me back to the quote by Teddy Roosevelt, comparison is the thief of joy. It's interesting because I see a good side to comparison and I see a bad side to comparison. The good side is when it leads to that intrinsic motivation, like I heard you mentioning earlier. But then it's a bad thing when it causes us to almost self-reject, question our identity, whether we're capable, whether we're as worthy, or whether we're, able to meet our potential. Like I remember going back to geometry class, I was like, man, I'm bad at math. And I'm not bad at math. I struggled with geometry. In that process, reflecting on it, I recognized that what I was realizing was a crack in what was ultimately a strength of mine. Like, yes, I was a strong math student, but I wasn't as strong with spatial math. And once I realized that later in life, I remember when I was going through Calculus 3, I starting Calculus 3, I remember thinking, this is going to be hard for me because this is another spatial math and I'm not strong there, but I'm not bad at math. That was the reframe I needed. And so on the one hand, when I was younger, it became a critique of my identity. And that's when comparison was bad. I was like, I'm a bad math student. And then when I got older and a little wiser, I was like, oh no, I'm good at math, but I struggle with this type of math. And so we'll work around it. I'll just like, work a little harder in this class. And it became a source of motivation for me.
That's such a healthy perspective to take. Like break it down into the more granular pieces instead of having like one aspect of math or being a student speak for your whole identity.
So going back to the quote, comparison is a thief of joy, I'm realizing that, and I want to hear your thoughts here, but I'm realizing that it becomes a thief when it leads to self-rejection. I feel like self-rejection and joy are fundamentally incompatible. Right. And so when comparison leads us to believe that we aren't good enough for some reason, that's when we struggle to find joy in the things that we're doing.
Yeah. This reminds me of, that feeling of self-rejection or that theme of self-rejection. Reminds me of near the end of my career, I was swim career, I was really getting in my head of let me work on all like my weaknesses, right? Because that's like how you get better, which is true to an extent. But it wasn't until like towards truly like my last year, I finally had an epiphany where I was like, Oh, I just need to stop comparing my weaknesses to other people's strengths.
Yes.
I also have unique strengths that I should lean into. Like, yes, always work on improving, right? Improving upon your weaknesses, but don't make that your whole identity. Like, don't spend so much time and energy only trying to work on your weaknesses. Work on also refining what differentiates you and makes you a strong competitor too. And I think about that, yeah, pretty often, like now, today as well, whenever I do find myself, yeah, slipping back to that mentality of, especially coming from swimming, like, oh, wow, there's so much I have to make up for because I swam until age 26. And then I'm just comparing myself to the people who started working out of undergrad. Don't limit yourself to only playing the rules of someone else's game. You have just as much authority to create your own rules or figure out like another game that favors your skill set as well. It's a constant reminder that I need to give myself.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like you're naturally bringing us to how do we, like, we've established that comparison as a habit. How do we step out of that habit and interrupt the cycle? And one way you said to do that is by reminding yourself not to compare your weaknesses to someone else's strengths. I really like that reminder. Something I've caught myself doing recently is when I find myself caught in this comparison loop, I will say out loud, I'm not thinking about this, to stop it. I like quite literally interrupt the thought. And sometimes I find that it's easy to go on another train of thought after I've interrupted it, but other times I find that I have to keep reminding myself that I'm not thinking about it. But that's a tactic that I've used to interrupt the habit as well. Is there anything else that you've done that you found helpful to stop the comparison habit?
Yeah, it's interesting how we both have our own mantras or reminders to come back to stop us from like over catastrophizing. Mine, yeah, in addition to just being like, okay, stop comparing like my weaknesses to other people's strengths, like lean more into what differentiates myself. I will also just like try to zoom out and think bigger picture as opposed to just playing a very like myopic game that someone else just had total control over designing. So it just takes a perspective shift. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think one thing it's important to touch on that I feel like I'm hearing in both of our stories in a way is comparison as a way to outsource self-trust. Like comparing for validation that we're good students, good athletes, doing well in our careers, that sort of thing. By comparing ourselves to where other people are, it helps us internally validate or invalidate that we're on track.
I get what you're saying. I'm starting to see it's so easy to compare when everyone's doing the same thing, more or less, growing up as children. You're in the same school, you're like enrolled in the same sports, same teams.
Yeah.
So it's so easy to compare, and because of that, like we spend 20 odd years just always comparing ourselves, and then we bring that over into our adult years where things are more nuanced and people do have their own things going on, but we still, because it's been such muscle memory, we revert back to still comparing ourselves, even though we're doing totally different things. Now as adults, it's silly to have the perspective now to compare ourselves with other people when our lives are so different. Yet we're still distilling it down to very black or white and totally ignoring like everything else. We just see the one good thing and we just totally disregard like the full picture. So for as an analogy, HBS, for example, I remember having this conversation with some friends. You basically are only picking up on the things that everyone is doing well, and you in your mind, you put together like the ideal person who's doing everything well. But it's your mind is actually going through a shortcut of like, okay, there could be this person who's like who has a really lively social life. There could be another person who is really getting things done with recruiting and like has a job lined up. There's another person who is like excelling and like getting all ones, like equivalent of straight A's, like at HBS.
Yeah.
But there's no one person who's doing them all.
Oh, that is such a good point.
Yeah, but we think that everyone is doing it all because we're just doing the shortcut of I'm just seeing the highlight reel across all these people and I'm just going to assume that they have everything else figured out as well.
Yeah, that is such a good point. This idea that your mind is creating a mosaic of other people's strengths and attributing that to one person, when in reality you're just seeing a person's strengths and you're not seeing all the weaknesses or all the trade-offs that they're making to index on that strength.
Yeah,
that is such a good reminder.
The highlight reel in real life.
Yeah, exactly. And to your point earlier about it being silly that we're comparing ourselves in our adult life, I think that I totally agree. It's silly when we take a step back, but that is the tendency of the rule follower, and that is the habit that we have to break. Because if not, then we find that we've over-indexed on a success that wasn't actually ours to begin with. Going back to that J. Cole song, the good thing is like we went a long way, but the bad thing is we went the wrong way, right? And it's like, all right, what do you do to turn around? Part of turning around is breaking this comparison habit.
Yeah. Wait, I want to stay on that for a little bit. Comparison as a form of like self-distrust, or what did you say again?
As a form of what?
Yes, you something about like self-rejection.
Yeah, as a form of self-rejection.
Yeah, and then from there, self-rejection meaning, totally disregarding what makes you special and unique and
not even disregarding it, like devaluing it.
Yeah. And then also another stem from self-rejection, like rejecting your own path, like rejecting your own vision of what you even want to do and instead living for someone else's. So it's interesting how there are layers to that.
Yeah. And it's making me think, when does comparison from the place of aspiration quietly turn into self-rejection? So I feel like the line between the two is really fine, and it's quite insidious. We don't see it's happening until it happens.
Yeah, I guess it just comes back to you needing to ask yourself, like, I'm aspiring to achieve this goal, but is this actually what I want? Right? Does it come back to that?
Yeah.
If you just want something because everyone else wants it, and it turns out you didn't actually care so much for it, then to just be at the top of that thing that everyone else is vying for, that's when you'll finally get to achieving that point, which comes to the thesis like of our podcast. You reach that point and you're like, oh, okay, like what now?
What now? Yeah. And it would suck to be pursuing something for years and years for the heck of it because you were chasing a goal that wasn't yours to begin with. And after all of that chasing, realize that you ended up in a place that you didn't want to be at in the beginning. And that leads to my next question, which is, we're talking about what the cost of comparison could be in the future, but I think comparison has cost us things in the past as well. What has comparison? Oh, okay.
Yeah, like how so?
Comparison has definitely cost me my peace. It's led to feelings of unsettlement, disappointment, right? Going back to what Teddy Roosevelt said, it's been the thief of my joy in some instances. I felt so down on myself. Even after I've accomplished something great, I'm like, oh, but this person did it even better.
No, exactly.
You know?
Those moments where you've accomplished something and you're happy with it until you hear about someone else, and then you're like, it totally overrides any joy that you just had.
Right. I see this in the context of racing. Like,
did you do a competitive sport growing up?
No, I didn't. I'm quite bad at sports.
I could see you doing like track and field. Totally.
That, yeah. In another life, I am a track and field athlete. But anyway, I've seen this in races where I'm like, oh, I just got this great PR. Like I had like a 7-minute PR, and then I look at what other people ran, and I'm like, ooh, it's not as good as them. And I'm no longer as excited, or I'm just like hiding what my numbers were.
Yeah. A check-in point for those sorts of situations that I've put into practice. I mean, it's hard not to compare. But what I've come back to, just to put things into perspective, is, okay, but well, before I found out what this other person did and became a little dejected from that, like, how did I just feel like right before it? Like, let me just try to channel that feeling again. Like, I was proud of myself until I heard about someone else. Yeah. But yeah, at least like at one point I was happy.
Yeah. Does anything come to mind for what comparison has cost you?
Yeah, I guess similar. Just joy, satisfaction, pride, like being proud of doing what I did. I actually have never been proud of like my career, like my swimming, until after the fact, until like years after I retired. There's always something more to accomplish. Like, you can always beat yourself, you could always beat other people, you can like improve your ranking. So it was really hard for me for a long time to own my accomplishments and be happy and proud. But yeah, now, like, after doing a lot of like work, therapy, just having conversations with people who do see my value, and having those very transparent conversations, it helps me see it more.
I feel like what I'm hearing you describe is like reclaiming your joy through therapy and in conversations with people, being able to reflect on to reflect on just how big your accomplishments were and be proud of that.
I also think a lot of it, just give ourselves some grace, right? A lot of it does also come from the authority figures and environments that really want to foster a competitive environment to milk the most out of like the people who are participating in it. So maybe we would have been more gracious with ourselves.
Say more about that.
Like, for your middle school geometry class, for example, there was a clear punishment. I mean, not a clear one, but like an insinuated punishment for not
public shaming.
Yeah, public shaming. For not performing as well as your peers. And that kids are so impressionable. Like, we're so neuroplastic. Like, that really gets seared into our like DNA growing up. So just like aspects of that. Also in swimming, there was like clear repercussions for not performing as well. So it's definitely a mix of, yes, how we feel, but how we've been brought up to feel, and also how our actions were also responsible for the people who are playing a part in the environment. It's a nature versus nurture conversation. I think that in our society, comparison is very much nurtured at a young age. We're conditioned to compare. And like we've explored over the course of this conversation, comparison has led to some great things, but it's also cost us things. It's cost us our peace. It's cost us our joy, and many times. And now that we are at a point in our lives where we have more agency than we ever have before, and it's up to us to define
what we want out of our lives, it's so important that we're interrupting this comparison cycle so that we're actually moving in a direction that's authentic to us. And I don't know if comparison will ever go away, but I also don't think that that's the goal, for me at least. I think the goal is catching myself more reflexively when I see myself slipping into that comparison habit, and making it easy for myself to not compare by, for example, changing my association with social media. What about you? What are your thoughts on comparison as it looks like moving forward?
I think the remedy of it is to be more grounded in yourself and who you are, and just have a really strong knowing of who you are, so that you can really like grow your roots, and you're not putting your value onto other people, right? Comparison is inherently saying like I only know how I'm doing relative to how someone else is doing. But if you're so understanding of yourself and what you bring to the table, that'll help mitigate a lot of comparison tendencies. I like this poem. I have to Google it really quickly. It's a Dr. Seuss poem. It is so cute. Let me pull it up. Okay, it's so sweet. Today you are you. That is truer than true. Yeah. There is no one alive who is youer than you.
I love that one. Which book is that from again? Is that?
I don't know. Dr. Seuss book.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I think just Dr. Seuss says it perfectly. What it comes down to is just no one can compare with you. And you also in turn can't compare with anyone else, because you are just so uniquely yourself from all of your experiences, your upbringing, I don't know, the family you were born into, all these circumstances. There's like no point in comparing yourself to anyone else, because whoever you are is like, you're the best fit person to be that.
Yeah. I really like that. Thanks for sharing that poem.
Yeah. You've heard it before.
I have, but it's been several years since I last heard it.
Yeah, I love
Dr.
it.
Seuss has some bars. Well,
yeah, that's the takeaway here.
Dr. Seuss had bars.
Yeah. Just be you. No one else can be you more than you can.
Yeah.
Or as good as you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, thank you guys for joining us for this iteration of the pod. If you liked what you heard, please comment, like, and subscribe. And also send us more thoughts on what you'd like to hear. We would love to have you guys join the conversation over comments and messages.
Thank you. See you next time.
Bye. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of State of Mind. If you listen to the full episode, share your thoughts with us. We'd love to hear them.
If you liked what you heard, please like, comment, leave a review, and follow us wherever you listen.
And note, this podcast reflects our personal opinions and experiences and is for informational and conversational purposes only.
It is not intended as medical, mental health, legal, or financial advice.